the lower is the amount of money I need to meet my goals, right? So now the next question is that if I want to look at minimizing the amount of money I need to meet my goals, then what do I need to do? I need to maximize returns, right? However, as Arvind said when he kind of gave the summary, that high return comes with high risk, right? And a lot of people, actually speaking, we have heard this all the time: high risk, high reward, high risk, high return, etc. But very few people actually understand, okay, what is the meaning of high risk associated with this high reward. So let me just tell you, okay, this is the way the hierarchy is, right? The government bonds issued by the government of India has the lowest risk, followed by bank fixed deposit, then corporate debt, then equity, large cap, mid cap, small cap, etc. Okay, so the higher you go up on this bar, the higher is the risk and more likely to be the return. However, keep one thing in mind: when the risk is high, there is no guarantee that you are going to get those returns. It is quite possible that you might end up losing money rather than having any positive return. Okay, so it's very, very important to understand. And I kind of use this Russian roulette game to illustrate this. What is the meaning of high risk and high reward? So let's say I'm willing to give you 10 crore rupees to play this game, and I'm going to aim at your heart. Oops, sorry, the heart is on the left side. All right. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to shoot you. Okay, there is only one bullet. 5 chambers are empty. So you say there is a 1 in a 6 chance that the bullet will hit you and probably kill you. And I'm going to give you 10 crore rupees. How many of you would like to play this game? Okay, so I'm just going back on my chat. How many of you would like to play this game? Any answer? Yes, no? Would anyone want to play this game? Okay. So except for Ravi, which is maybe, everyone says no, right? The critical part here is that we know what is the worst case outcome. If that high risk materializes, you disappear. And that's the reason why you don't want to play this game. So what we are talking about here is that in this game, I know my risk tolerance. My risk tolerance is that I cannot lose my life. That's my risk tolerance, right? So, but it is very, when you look at the investment, this is where these two critical factors come into play. What we call as risk capacity and risk tolerance. So let me just explain what these two factors are. Risk capacity is that given your net worth, what amount of losses can you bear without significantly changing your lifestyle? Okay, I'll repeat that again. Risk capacity is your ability, financial ability to absorb loss without having to change your lifestyle. Okay, and risk tolerance is a psychological factor. The risk tolerance is that what amount of losses would make you go bananas, so to say, that you'd want to take some action to get out of that situation. Now, these things are extremely important, right? Of course, we keep talking about risk, risk, risk. So what is risk? Risk is uncertainty. And when we talk about the risk associated with investment, what we mean is uncertainty of returns. Now, uncertainty of return also means that you could lose money. The returns could be negative. So we are not only talking about a 10% to 0% range, but it could be a 10% to minus 20, minus 30, minus 50% range, right? So each of us have to really understand what our risk capacity and what our risk tolerances are. And the minimum of the two is actually what you are going to use to create your portfolio, right? So let me, so I want to invest, given my risk capacity and risk tolerance, how does it work? So first thing is that I need to understand my risk as an individual. what kind of psychological profile do I have, what kind of a wealth do I have. So I want to understand both my capacity and tolerance. The next thing comes is, what kind of risk can you take with the goal which you have in mind. So for instance, if the goal is to build and maintain emergency kitty, can you take any risk with that? The answer is no, right? Even you might have a very high risk capacity and very high risk tolerance, the goal dictates the terms here. So that no, if that goal requires you to be absolutely safe, then no matter what your risk profile is, you will have to invest money in safer assets. For instance, your kids are going to go to school or college and you're building kitty for that, right? Probably you don't want to take too much of risk associated with that investment. The next thing is, what is your age? Generally, what tends to happen is that as we grow old, our ability to earn money goes down, right? At some point in time, you'll retire. At some point in time, you'll not have the physical energy to do activities to earn money. And hence, once the inflow stops, your ability to take risk kind of tends to go down, right? Another critical factor is how much time is available. For instance, for say that I have to retire and I'm going to retire in next 3 years time. Now my risk capacity and risk tolerance might be very high, but if I need to ensure that I have a retirement kitty at the end of 3 years, then I'm going to try and ensure that that retirement kitty is not invested in something which has high risk, because if that risk materializes, maybe I might lose 30, 40, 50, 70% of the money which I have saved, and I cannot afford to do that, right? So it's kind of a slightly complex game. It's not only about your individual risk capacity and tolerance, but these other factors also come into play. And using these factors, we sit down and configure a portfolio which matches with your risk capacity and tolerance. This is the critical part of your investment, what we call as asset allocation, right? How do you determine what will go on in debt, what will go in real estate, gold, equity, etc.? It comes from here. All right. So that's the most important thing as far as the investment is concerned. Otherwise, you are going to face problems. If you don't follow that, then we are going to face problems. Right. I like these two pictures to describe. So investment is like a joyride. It's going to go up and down. Though most of us really would prefer if the growth was steady and straightforward, but that's not the way it is. Especially if you invest in slightly volatile assets, which could include even debt. Okay, not all debt are safe. So we have seen, for instance, people who have been exposed to mutual fund recently. When Franklin Templeton had problems with a couple of their funds, they shut those funds down, and it created illiquidity. Okay, there might be some losses as well. So it's not necessary that everything is secure and safe. So there is a certain amount of risk involved. So some people want to kind of look at risk which is like this. Okay, I will just I go to a place where there are joyrides, and I'm only going to restrict myself to dashing cars. Not much of a risk, and I'll have the fun which I want. But some people are very adventurous and they want to have fun like this, right? So we need to figure out what is your risk profile, what are the other ingredients which goes towards defining your portfolio, and that you have to kind of determine. And the key thing is that, for instance, wealth management, building your assets, building your wealth, actually is a lot like going to a gym. And when you go to a
Johnny, you have to unmute yourself.
All right. Please, everyone, stay in mute. Yes. Yeah, please do that. Yeah. So, Some people may want to be adventurous and take higher risk. Some may want to take a smaller risk. So it's your profile has to match the kind of risk you are taking. And as I said, financial advisor can act like seatbelt. This is, just the way you go to gym and there is instructor, that instructor motivates you. He or she ensures that you eat the right kind of food, you come to the gym regularly, you do the right kind of exercise, so on and so forth. Right? That kind of helps you to stay on course. And that is extremely important. So most of us actually don't have discipline to stay on course. And hence it's important that you have someone with you who can kind of advise you what needs to be done and kind of motivates you to stay the course. Right. Now, let me talk about something where there's a lot of confusion, right? People get confused between trading and investing. Now, trading and investing are completely different things. Trading is usually for very short term. So there's something called people called day traders. Their time frame in which they do trading is just one day. So they kind of buy or sell something in the morning, and by the evening they just square off the position and come out. Right? Some people might have a longer time horizon and might do maybe a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, and so on and so forth. But most of the time when you're doing trading, you are only looking at short-term movement in the things you trade, right? While the investment is a long-term process. It's not something which you're kind of looking for 5 days, 10 days, a month, or 2 months, or a year, 3 years. Probably you're looking at tens of years, to build your wealth. So these are very, very different things. Now, what happens, while you are investing, that it is a good idea that to go through this euphoric market and end of the world crash cycle, because that is the time you are going to realize what your true risk profile is. When we ask questions to people about their risk profile, what they say and how they would behave once the risk is materialized is very different. Okay? It's not the same. Though you may think very hard and you may think that you have the ability to take risk, but when the money is, you feel that the money is going down the drain, losing money, it becomes very, very difficult for many, many people to deal with that situation. So when you go through bull market and an equally bad bear market, that is the time you truly start recognizing your risk profile. And keep in mind that investment is a long-term process, right? So you got to stay there, make adjustment as you kind of discover your true risk profile. Sometimes what happens that people are investing, they say, okay, I want to invest and this is a long-term investment. But when the market behaves in a manner that starts giving, kind of acidity to people and, creates a lot of anxiety, suddenly people decide to exit their investment process. And this is what I call as like a playing to, you have a test match, you're playing and you're playing for a draw, and suddenly the opposite captain puts a guy who never bowls, right? He gives him hands him the ball and says, okay, bowl to this guy. And suddenly you feel that is the guy who can hit him out of the stadium, right? And suddenly your state of mind changes. And you do something which you are not supposed to do. Exactly the same thing happens, especially when the situation is bad, when the markets are falling. You kind of decide to exit. For instance, what would have happened? Suppose, someone was investing. In March, the market tanked 30-35%. And, at the bottom, around 22nd of March, you decided, no, I can't take it, I'm exiting. And suddenly, the market almost completely recovers. Believe me, once you burnt your finger, you will not have the ability to go back in the market fast. It might take you 2 years, 3 years, even 5 years time to really trying to get back to the market. Yeah. So investment process, you have to follow the investment process, and you will follow your investment processes if the investment processes are designed in line with your risk profile. Yeah, sometimes, so that's why risk profile is very critical. If your risk profile and the portfolio, they do not match, then you have a problem. Then you are likely to face this point which I talked about. Okay. Another thing which people do, that when you are trading, you decide, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala said very nicely, that it's not that you can't trade and invest, you can do both, but you have to keep both these portfolios separate. Okay. Your investment portfolio is a long-term thing, your trading portfolio is a short-term thing. But sometimes what happens on a trading portfolio, you said, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to buy this stock, and I think the stock is going to go up by 10% in the next maybe a week's time. But instead of it going up, now it goes down by 20%. You did not have stop loss. Okay, so you did not exit, and now you lost 20%, and you're thinking, should I get out? Okay. How many people, I'm just going to go back to the chat box again. How many people can get out of that losing position? How many times you guys have said, okay, I'm losing money here and I need to get out? And you got out of that position. It could be mutual fund, it could be your stocks. Would you get out from a losing position? Suppose, you invested, say, 10 lakhs rupees in a stock, and that value of the stock has now gone down to 6 lakhs. Would you get out? Okay. Hiren says, can't. Okay. Ashish says, that's the best time for investment. Lakshmikant says no. Pooja says no. Okay. Someone says, okay, I'm in right now with Future Group stock will hold, right? So see, this is what happens, right? The pain associated with loss is wise. They say, of course, I don't know if anyone did the quantitative study, but say that's, if suppose you were to make 1 lakh loss, the pain is equivalent of making 2 lakhs profit. Okay, the joy you get by 2 lakh profit can be offset by making a 1 lakh rupee loss. Okay, so we don't get out of your loss making position, and it's psychologically we are built like that. No one to be blamed. Yeah, there are things which are just, we are just, human beings. Our brain is wired in a particular manner. We don't like to take losses. I know there are many people who are in Yes Bank stock, 200 rupees, 150, 100, 70, 30. Oh, now I have so little left in that stock that I might as well carry on. Okay, so many people have experienced situations like this. But that is the reason why one of the things which we say, especially if you are doing trading, is that you have to have stop loss. Stop loss means when the loss hits a particular level, no arguments, no emotions, no reasoning, get out of that position, right? Of course, for instance, even when we are talking about investment, we say that it's a long-term process, right? But suppose, your portfolio loses 80%. Are you going to rethink about it? Probably, right? I can't blame anyone for rethinking, right? So, it's a difficult proposition. As I said, when we are talking about it, that investment per se is very easy. Do SIP every month, X amount of money, and you're done. But your ability to hang on to that process, look at the way the value of your portfolio moves up and down, it's a very hard game. Yeah. Another thing, very critical, yeah, that whenever you are doing trading or investing, you need to ensure that you save as much as possible. Save meaning cut down the cost, right? And we'll come to this thing as we move forward. So, we are, all of us, including me, Arvind, and anyone else, all of us have biases. Okay, the more educated you are, the more experienced you are, kind of the more professional you are, those biases tend to come down a little, but the bias is still there, right? And most of the people who are not full-time traders, full-time investors, and have not really done a lot of reading and introspection, you tend to live with your biases. Okay, so biases is basically emotional response to things, right? So for instance, say I have done asset allocation and this is my process and this is the way I'm going to invest, and suddenly the market turns volatile and 30% drop. What do I do? Some of the people will just stop their SIPs, some of them might just exit, right? Because what are they doing? And they are actually injecting their emotions in the decision making. But if you really go back, our initial decision was SIP, month after month after month after month. But now we are asking questions. Now is 30% good enough to ask questions? You might ask questions at 20%. You might ask question at 10% drop in the value of your assets. It becomes a problem. So if you automate things, then you kind of tend to stay away from reacting emotionally to what's happening in the market. Configure your portfolio to avoid the trigger. This is extremely important, right? If suppose your risk bearing capacity and tolerance is 10 lakhs rupees, and that's a real one, and the portfolio is configured in such a manner, say like, okay, you have 80 lakhs rupees in your portfolio, 80 lakhs is allocated to equity. Market drops 15%, 12 lakhs rupees gone. Your risk tolerance triggered, and then you want to do something to come to terms with this emotional, this anxious period which you would be facing because of the fall. So, the wrong choice of portfolio, wrong configuration of portfolio can trigger those problems. And hence, asset allocation is extremely important. If your asset allocation is not right, you will have problems. Yeah. Another thing I would say that don't look at your portfolio daily. Some people look at their portfolio daily, and especially if you have very high emotional response to money, then I would say don't look at your portfolio daily. Actually, things don't really don't change that dramatically. Of course, there's a big drop in the market, something big happening in the market is there in the news. You're likely to go and look at the portfolio. But sometimes what happens, you look at your portfolio on a day-to-day basis. So, I see even in a mutual fund industry or a mutual fund investment, you look at it, okay, I have invested in one particular large cap in mutual fund, but suddenly I see another large cap fund is doing far better. Okay, last 1 month it has done better. Last 3 months it has done better. Okay, should I switch? These are the kind of questions which we face, right? And that happens because you are over anxious about things, right? One of the things which we want to do, I think Warren Buffett nailed it. So in one of the talks, he and Bill Gates were sitting together, and one question was asked to the investor. Warren Buffett asked people who are attending the seminar that why is that all of you think what Bill Gates did with Microsoft you can't do, but what I have done, all of you can do. Okay? Because all of us think as what is investment? Buying and selling. Right? How hard can it be? Okay, if Warren Buffett can have 25% return year over year for a long period of time, okay, I can do with 20, 15. It doesn't work like that. Okay, you have to be really, as Charlie Munger says, not stupid, right? Rather than being smart, even if you're just not being stupid, you'll be able to achieve, pretty reasonable level of performance. But we are over eager, right? We are over eager. We want to make a 20%, 25%, 30% kind of a return. I remember one of the investors we were talking to, one of the clients we were talking to, and he had seen Ramesh Damani's videos, how to convert 10 lakhs into 100 crore. Now, Ramesh Damani is different, right? Not all of us will be able to do that. And if you're kind of going to chase that kind of a dream, then you are going to tweak with your portfolio all the time. Then you are going to violate your investment processes and may not even reach the, at 12%, 15% return, which potentially could come through a long-term investment in equity. You might not be able to reach that. And sometimes you might burn your fingers and might have to get out of the market altogether, right? So yeah, just as I was saying, building systems and rules, SIPs, systematic withdrawal plans, these are all very nice instruments which ensures that you eliminate emotions out of your decision making as far as your investments are concerned. But this is, I think a lot of people look at excitement, they need adrenaline through their investment process. For me, and I think for a lot of people who are not really professional investors, good investment got to be very boring. Simple, easy, no real excitement there. And that is the investment which will help you to get those 10, 12, 15% return and will help you to reach